Well, great. It's fantastic to have you both today here at Consensus, the 10th anniversary, I do believe, which is unbelievable to think about. So I'd love to hear what's going on at Cahill Gordon, and of course, let me know what you guys are doing. But first and foremost, introductions. Love to hear about you guys.
Thanks so much for having us on. I'm Sam Enzer. I am the co-head and founder of CahillNXT, which is our digital asset and technology team. And I'm here with my co-head and co-founder, Lewis Cohen.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, Lewis Cohen, and you're getting us hot off the press. We merged last week, so we're all of about a week and a half old, and we're already crawling around and making trouble.
Fantastic. All right, so you all did a presentation not long ago here at the conference. Could you tell me a little bit about it?
Sure. So we did a presentation along with Binance's head of legal for the Americas, Neil Chopra, and Falcon X's general counsel, Hervé Maniar. And what we talked about was the global market structure. So how does the US regulate transactions in digital assets? How are other major markets regulating it? Where do we think the global market structure is headed? So that was sort of the topic.
Okay, excellent. So where do you see things transitioning? And we're starting to see a lot of positive news in the news. If you're looking at crypto as a movement towards advancements within many different spheres, certainly within fintech, but in other areas as well. We saw an ETF for Bitcoin several months ago, and now the ETF from Gary Gensler and team being pseudo-approved last week. So where do you see things progressing within this space in the government?
Sure. First and foremost, you've got to have some recognition that crypto is here to stay. It's not going away. It seemed like for a while the government's position was just if we either ignore it or just put in a box, we won't have to deal with it in the future. And I think exactly as you've said, with first the Bitcoin ETP and now with the semi-approval of the Ethereum ETP, with Congress rejecting the SEC's really kind of ridiculous move with what's something called Staff Accounting Bulletin 121, and rejecting that. The Government Accounting Office also rejected it as just inappropriately done, and a bunch of other things. We've seen courts as well start to push back on the SEC. We're starting to see a recognition that, hey, let's find some balance here. Let's all work together, the crypto community and various enforcement agencies, and let's have a market structure that can kind of work for folks. And of course, the tremendous work that the two key committees in the House of Representatives, House Financial Services, House Ag, put in to create FIT 21 is a big part of that.
What are your thoughts on the central bank digital currencies? Is that something, I know that they've sort of nixed it currently, but is that something you think would be positive or not for various governments around the world?
I think there's a lot of concern around privacy when it relates to central bank digital currency. I think that's the major. So I think Lewis and I talk about a lot. Why is it that 15 years after Bitcoin was launched, why is it that there is now a multi-trillion-dollar market for digital assets? Is it because it's a store of value? Certainly it can be used to pass value, but the real central premise of it, why is it so intoxicating? Why is there such voracious demand? Why is that demand growing? Why is it never going to go away? Is because, as Lewis will tell you, it represents a renegotiation of the relationship between a person and the government. This is value that can be transacted without a government intermediary, right? Central bank digital currencies are the exact opposite of that. That is a digital representation of value that the government can just populate in your account and follow and surveil. So I think there's significant concerns around how that would work, whether people really could have privacy, how would you make people use it, all of that.
Yeah, Sam, I concur in that. I think one thing that slightly gets overlooked, we have a central bank digital currency. We don't not have a. So when large banks, when Citibank and Wells Fargo settle, there's not a guy with a little cart with $100 bills. It's a ledger entry. We already have that. The issue really is, do we bring that to the consumer? And as Sam says, Why? We don't need that. That's not something anybody is really looking for. What we want is instantaneous settlement, and we have tools to do that, including stablecoins, including a variety of things. So it's really, in my mind, a trade-off. Are the benefits of what a CBDC at the retail level could bring worth the privacy limitations? I answer pretty clearly no.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll just say one more thing on that. Our country has long recognized the importance of a certain penumbra of privacy, right? There are constitutional decisions, court decisions about it. When Bork, for those who remember Bork, was up for a judgeship and was bounced because of what movies he had rented, legislation was passed. Privacy is so fundamental to the American ethos. It's fundamental to the human ethos. And do we really want literally every manner and every dollar you spend, every penny, to be watched by the government? Is that something that this country wants, that the world wants? I doubt it.
Right. No, well said. Very interesting. So maybe a slight pivot to the Ethereum ETF approval or pseudo approval at this stage. Do you think that at this point in time, we're at a point where it's no longer considered a security, or you think that's yet to be decided, and it's not a commodity, nor is it a security at this point?
So it's a good question. A lot to chew on there. Let me start to break that down. So I think first, what you're referring to is, I think it was last week, the SEC, through delegated authority, the Division of Trading and Markets, approved SEC Form 19B41 filings that relate to applications by issuers to get approval to list for trading shares of ETFs that hold spot ETH, right? Now, implicit in that legal classification is the concept that the basket of assets held by the ETFs are commodities, okay? By the way, there is a long record of SEC pronouncements, regulatory developments that classify ETH as a commodity, right? 2018, Bill Hinman, Director of Division of Finance at the SEC, said, whatever it was in the beginning, Ethereum now is not a security. Jay Clayton, who was then the chair of the SEC, endorsed that statement, arguably on behalf of the commission. The CFTC has clearly said, and there have been other things. Now, we know that after the upgrade to proof of stake, that the SEC certainly at a minimum opened an investigation into whether staking has been offered and sold as a security, which does not necessarily mean ETH is a security, right? There's a distinction there. I think also there's a consensus among courts, very important. Tokens are not securities. There can be a securities transaction that relate to an asset, and that underlying asset could be a commodity, but the transaction is a security. Sort of like, in the Howey case.
Right.
You wouldn't say the oranges are securities.
Right.
The security is the entire scheme is a securities transaction. The oranges are the object of the scheme. They are not a security. But I think that there's a very compelling argument that ETH itself is not a security. The question, though, is not so much what is ETH. The question is what transactions, products, platforms, protocols, services can be offered without triggering securities regulation that relate to ETH. And with that, I'll turn it over to the expert.
Yeah, sure. I think also, again, just on a level setter, the SEC as the regulator of securities has a strong voice in what is or is not a security, but they are not the ultimate arbiter. A court is the arbiter. It is conceivable, even if the SEC said ETH is not a security, that a court can say, actually, no, I think it is a security. So it's important. The SEC has sort of asserted their primacy here, but that's not really the case. They have an important voice, but it's not the final voice. In terms of that relationship, Sam, between transactions, what courts, we did this long study of, the Howey case law. What's very clear is the pattern of somebody selling something to someone else, the other person doesn't really want the thing, they want to make money. That's a long pattern with lots of different things. Many token transactions fall into that, not because of what is the token. It could be a widget, a jelly bean, anything you want. It's because of the nature of the scheme. And I think the question really around staking is most interesting because there at least has been a suggestion by the SEC and some other commentators as well, in fairness, that staking is somehow different. I would strongly disagree with that. I think the record pretty clearly shows that's not. What staking does is it reallocates the entirety of the outstanding body of ETH tokens among people who do work for the network and people who don't. It's a zero-sum game. More ETH are created by the protocol, they dilute the people who are not staking. So I think when you look at it thoughtfully, you will reach that same conclusion. And I'm hopeful that with a lot of hard work and many other lawyers who work and do great work in the space, we're going to start to see some recognition about how the law works.
No, I agree with you. I think that we're moving towards greater clarity, but it's still going to take some time, no question. So I'd love to hear more about what's going on at Cahill in this space. What you all are working on, what types of clients you're bringing in. Because there's so many different derivatives inside of blockchain. I'd love to hear anything that you have to add about that.
Sure. I would say, without naming specific clients,
sure,
we represent companies, projects, innovators, entrepreneurs, developers across the crypto economy. So from some of the world's largest digital asset trading platforms. So you've got like the market intermediaries, okay, exchanges, market makers, trading prop traders. You've got the folks who are involved in launching projects. So developers, venture capital firms that give them money so that they can do projects and finance them. And then there are individuals who find themselves on the wrong end of a government subpoena or have a dispute. So we represent all of these folks.
Sides. Okay, so both the transactional as well as litigation side.
I should add, Cahill is an over 100-year-old law firm that is, well known for helping Wall Street financial institutions navigate the evolving regulation by the government. When the 1933 Securities Act was passed, Cahill was there helping financial institutions navigate that. And so we continue to represent traditional financial institutions who want to understand, what is this thing, crypto? How do we get involved in this market? How should we be interacting it? Can we trade it? Can we run an OTC desk that does it? Can we lend in it? Can we collateralize loans on it? How should we think about it?
Excellent. And so what's the branding, the new name for the group?
CahillNXT.
Excellent.
NXT.
All right.
CahillNXT. Lewis came up with Next because we represent the next generation of emerging technology. And I said, let's get rid of the vowels, NXT, because it's cooler.
No, I like it.
Yeah, it goes back to a question I was asked when I was at a large law firm about working in the crypto space. And the firm is a wonderful firm doing great work, but they didn't quite understand. And they said, well, where are our largest clients, our most important clients in the space? And this is going back to 2016-17. I don't see it, Lewis. What's going on? I said, we're creating the next generation. And of course now we see some of these entities that Sam, you alluded to, are generating tremendous amounts of legal work and are really important to our economy. That's the next that we're talking about. And the next is going to keep evolving. Crypto is an experiment. It's a human experiment. And our firm is there to support those people, help them do things in the right way, and help them address things when sometimes they don't.
So, all right, last question, because I get it all the time still. When you're out and about at a cocktail party or at dinner and people come up to you and say, well, what are you involved with right now at the firm? And you mention this, do you still get eye rolls?
About being in crypto?
Yes.
No. I really don't get eye rolls. I think there are a strong but decreasing number of people who just find the whole crypto idea sort of useless and distasteful. But I think they're going into their corner and staying there. When I go to events, when I speak, both Sam and I do a lot of public speaking. We're at, out and about a lot. People engage with us, and sometimes they're curious, but nobody's rolling their eyes, at least as I see.
Yeah, I would say today, what I get is curiosity about how they can enter. I got eye rolls in 2018 when I first got into the space. When I first got into the world of how does the law map onto crypto, I was a federal prosecutor in the Southern District of New York. I had just arrived in the Securities and Commodities Fraud Unit. And in the Securities and Commodities Fraud Unit, there were certain things you were supposed to do. You're supposed to work on an accounting fraud case involving a Fortune 500 company. You're supposed to work on an insider trading case involving a dirty investment banker. And crypto was this new thing. ICOs were happening. Nobody understood what is it, let alone how does the law apply. And so as the new guy in the securities unit, my supervisors, the chiefs, were like, I don't know what this is, figure it out. And we went to many cocktail parties where I got eye rolls about, he's the crypto guy. But today, those same people are saying, how do I get into this? And that's really, I think, where we are now.
Excellent. No, it's great to hear. Any last comments, parting thoughts?
No, but thank you for having us. Thank you for speaking with us. Real pleasure.
Of course, my goodness. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks. And really, this is part of, I think, doing law a bit differently, and we appreciate your helping us get that message out. There's a lot of great law firms and lawyers in the space. We want to do things, and I think time will tell if we're successful in that mission, but that's what we're seeking to do, and really appreciate spending some time with you to talk about it.
My goodness. Thank you both. I really appreciate it.